Hey guys, Dennis here. I'm with
Joey. How you doing?
And we're here to talk about and actually kind of do a reaction / review of the 48-minute walkthrough for Cyberpunk 2077. Maybe it was me. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I didn't know this was dropping. I just saw it and then it went all over the place.
So yeah, it is the same gameplay demo that they showed at E3 that they showed behind closed doors. Okay. It is not the same one they showed at Gamescom. Everyone who was at Gamescom has experienced something different, so that's interesting. Yeah, they just dropped it online, and I think it was about 30 minutes after it had dropped online. Like, we posted it on Collider Games, like a link to it, so all of our fans could find it, and now we get to talk about it.
Yeah, looking at it, it's the projected release for this game is not until June 2019, so it's still a significant amount away.
And nothing's been confirmed for it, correct?
Yeah, but watching this video, now I know why it's taken them so long to make this game, because they announced this game so long ago. This is being developed by CD Projekt Red, who did
Witcher. And so. So honestly, like seeing the similarities between what appeals about Witcher, this deep lore, this well-built world, and that kind of aesthetic being applied, like the design work in this is beautiful. It has been beautiful throughout all these trailers, but we've only seen cinematic trailers. And this is our first time really seeing gameplay. And right off the bat, like, I think a lot of people were surprised that this is first person compared to the Witcher series, which is all third person. Yeah,
that was something, a bit of debate when they announced that. I don't know. Did they announce that at E3 or they announced it a while ago?
I think this is the first time it's really like sinking in what that means.
Yes, because this is the first time they actually get to see the gameplay versus, because some of the cinematics will shoot from a third person perspective or whatnot, and they have this. They mentioned like 2 or 3 times in the beginning, like, this is a work in progress, this is not finalized. It still looks beautiful. I mean, despite it not being finalized.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that like the graphic fidelity is all that impressive, but the design, certainly, the fluidity, the mechanics.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when I talk about Fallout, right? Fallout will never be the prettiest game, much like this game will never be the prettiest game, because the world is so large and so big, and you have so many things going on. You can't dedicate all the graphical power to it, but for what it is, it looks great, and obviously the comparisons to Blade Runner, the visual style,
the Minority Report as well, especially that first mission, going through the kind of slum scav area, had a real Minority Report feel.
Had a Akira vibe to it as well. Seemed more faster paced than something like Fallout. They kept mentioning, like, this is a first person RPG.
Yes.
They don't say like adventure game or shooter.
Well, it's
or
actually based
like
off of a tabletop game called Cyberpunk 2020, which in turn is based off of a novel called Hardwired. So this has its roots in kind of that RPG era, and for everyone, like, we're seeing a big resurgence of like D&D and that style of gaming. So this is going to appeal to a lot of people who want more depth to their storytelling.
Yeah, they talked also about like not wanting any load screens whatsoever. So like that your gameplay is seamless. Like you're just going from one place to another, which then I assume they won't have any type of fast travel type of situation like a Fallout, right? Where traveling
that's
from
a good point.
They can't load that, you know what I mean, immediately. Yeah. So it's going to be a situation where your character is going to have to drive or walk, or maybe, I don't know if they have trains on this thing. Yeah, well, subways or whatever.
I wonder how big the map is going to end up being, because Night City is a very interesting kind of Northern California facsimile of like the Bay Area kind of thing, but
it looked more like New York to me.
Right, it has a little more. It looked a little more like City Walk to me. It's like if Santee Alley took over City Walk. This is all LA stuff. This doesn't matter to you guys. The point is that I'm wondering if there's more like if it's not as sprawled out and it's more about like every individual room is accessible, every building is accessible, so that you're packing more interaction,
more dense
into like a more easily traversable space. That seems to be the direction that it's going to go.
But also remember there was the mission in there where she gets into the car and you have to actually drive around. They actually had her firing on people. So technically, if whatever she traversed car-wise should be also in the game.
And I thought it was interesting that they, with any first-person game, you usually jump to third person for driving, but in the demo they made sure to stay in first person for a little while in that driving mechanic, and then the second time she got in the car is when the third person kicked in. Yeah. So we are still getting some third person. There's probably going to be other instances of it, like maybe turret combat or something like that. You'll end up with a third person perspective like we got in Halo whenever you swap to a turret or something like that. So there's all that kind of possibility. I personally don't like first person when you're going to customize your character so much. Like when you're going to change how it looks. I like how in Fallout you can swap to third person. The third person, it's not necessarily as robust, and it's gotten better. But I would like to see that from CD Projekt Red, especially when your design looks so good. Like the jacket is a big part of the character. They talked about the street cred that your jacket gives, and the design and the aesthetic of that is going to be such a big part. So I'd really love to see the third-person jump. I get that it's supposed to be immersive. I get that you're supposed to be able to feel like you are in the character's head, but I love the option.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me as much. I rarely use the third-person option in Fallout. I use it once in a while, but I don't use it too often. I understand their reasoning behind it because they want you to be. It's supposed to be this immersive, living. I mean, the coolest thing for me was the character going outside and seeing the city and just normal NPCs walking around and living their lives. And my only concern, and it's with the gameplay or the city itself, is how much of this is on rails. I mean, they do it
right.
They do say like, okay, there's a lot of different paths that you can take for different missions that will get you there and how it will affect your game later on. It's just, how much of it is like, okay, well, you're going to do this now, so now you have to follow the exact path.
Well, so this for me, like, it strikes me as a game that you're going to enjoy a lot more if you suspend your disbelief. You really get into the RP of it. You don't try and, like, min-max certain things or try and, like exploit the system. If you play along and you ride those rails, even if it is railroading you, I think you're going to have a lot more fun. And especially the way they were talking about how many options and how many different ways you can go about encountering a scenario. We had one of the things when you go into that final mission and you're getting the bot, the spider bot, they made a point of saying pick up the tag, the controller tag. And the way that the mission worked, there wasn't necessarily going to need to be that. So I'm wondering if it would have been a possibility to walk away without it and be like, darn it, you screwed up. Like, because that's the way a tabletop RPG would work. It wouldn't, like, as you leave the area, in other games, you'd get a reminder, be like, you still have to pick up that. That's your quest item, not the spider bot. Yeah. You're supposed to pick that thing up. And if you left without it, like, what's the interaction once you get outside the room?
I don't know.
Like, if that is the level of RPG that we are going to get, then that's very interesting to me, but it takes a different play style, like a different mentality. And some people might not be into that. Some people are going to love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool having the different dialogue options and how they lead to different gameplay paths. The whole thing with, like you said, buying the bot from that Maelstrom gang and trying to do it peacefully at first. But the virus that's in that credit chip, that's going to happen as soon as you give that card.
Well, I think the amount of options that the voiceover was telling us we had was not reflected in the dialogue options. So I'm wondering if there are like it was being streamlined a little bit for us because he was talking about the possibility of buying it with your own credits. Or like maybe you could even talk to Dex a little bit more and get Dex to fund you because he says he has the credits to do it. So there's 3 possible ways to do this non-violently and do this as a buyer. 3 possible like money streams. So there might even be a version of it where you can just walk in, buy the bot, and you're like 50 grand, like you're out 50,000 eddies. But I like that sounds boring to people, but the fact that that's an option is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just gives a freedom of choice of what you want to do and how, if you want to have things peacefully or handle things violently. I mean, it's definitely a mature game. I mean, not just with the violence. I mean, you saw in the beginning there was nudity in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then like the way that the dynamic of the city works too, like trauma team and like the crime that's going to be on the streets. This is going to be there's going to be some mature concepts for sure. There's going to be like we said, it's a very Blade Runner kind of world, and you're going to have plenty of opportunities to delve into that, I think, or not as you choose. But yes, there's definitely going to be some more mature subject matter throughout.
And the gameplay itself, they got a lot of cool weapons in there. There was one was a ricochet gun.
Yeah.
One was a tracking gun. The mantis blades were pretty cool. Being able to climb.
Yeah, seeing those functioning was really cool. Yeah, the weapons, the tech shotgun is looking really cool. The smart weapons as well, like the ricochet, but also like the seeking shots and stuff like that. And honestly, like some of it at the same time looks like easy mode, looks a little cheap, but I think that the experience of this game is not necessarily going to be in combat. I think combat is going to be one of those things that should feel relatively easy as far as like the straight on, there's a person over there, I'm over here, I'm going to kill that thing. That part of it should be easy. What is going to be more difficult is how you've made it more difficult by your choices.
Yes.
Like, ultimately, you need to kill that person. You need to shoot them. But they're behind bulletproof glass now because you spooked them or something like that. So you can't just shoot them. And I think that's going to be the nuance of this game and where you get your difficulty from. It's not going to be the person who's the best at pressing buttons is going to be the best at this game.
Yeah, because you can choose to do, there was even an option where you can hack into and make it so like a low-level kind of, gang member couldn't fire their gun.
Yeah.
And then you could take them out, Just things like that, different paths of how to accomplish things. And I think the more it's believable and the more you feel like you have the freedom to choose and take different paths, I think that will only add to the immersion. I'm sold on this game. I mean, obviously, this game has been hyped up for a while, but seeing how this game can work and how the potential, obviously we've only seen this 48-minute demo, which is still pretty long, but this game is going to be hours and hours and hours, and so it's going to have to be able to do what we saw, but in a free-flowing way.
I am totally into this, especially because like people on this channel know that I'm a little lukewarm on Witcher right now. I am totally into this. This is more my aesthetic. This is looking at this is a system that I'm familiar with. When you're applying like tabletop RPG concepts to something, I am totally into this. Like tabletop RPGs are something I really enjoy, and seeing that like your stats included Constitution, I was like, all right, I know what this is. So like honestly, what else did I want to touch on? There's so much stuff in this. The biggest thing was that if you have multiple paths and things like that, the class, when they were talking about the class has fluidity. And they showed that like you could hack this if you were level 6, or you could go this way if you've got an engineering skill. one of the things about tabletop RPGs is they're usually not single player. There's very few examples of a single player tabletop RPG. So a lot of the mechanics are based off of having a more rounded party. And I'm interested to see, because they said that you're gonna be able to solo this. It is a single player game. You're gonna have to be able to solo it. I'm interested to see how they're adapting what was made for Cyberpunk 2020 into the gameplay of this, because it does seem really close to the pen and paper world. And I know, for instance, they are making sure that they're kind of railroading you into dex-based fighting, especially because you've got your companion Jackie, who's kind of the heavy hitter. So you probably can't do a full strength build. You're still going to be more agile than Jackie is. You saw in the final fight with the boss, he lifted a car for cover, which was a cool thing to see. But I think he's going to be your tank, and then you might be pulling in other people. And I think the mechanics are going to lean more dex, more stealth, more agility. And then your nuance within there is going to be like, are you a hacker? Are you a technician? Are you going to be high charisma and be able to charm people and just talk your way out of shit? So it's slightly, I'm perceiving that it's going to be slightly railroady in there. Again, none of what we saw is final. None of what we saw is confirmed technically, although it would be a really big headache to change everything that we saw, and it would negate the idea of showing it to us. So a lot of the things that we saw are going to be there.
Obviously, this is the direction they're heading in, and while not every little piece will be in there, this is how the game will play.
I'm just making sure we do the disclaimer talk of, like, technically nothing that we saw might be in there.
So. All right, guys, so that's it. That's what we thought of Cyberpunk 2077, the whole 48-minute walkthrough. Let us know what you think. Did you watch the whole thing? Are you deeply invested? For me personally, if I wasn't invested, I don't know I could watch 48 minutes of that. But I'm sold on this. What about you guys? Joey, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Joey Rassool, RASSOOL.
And you can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, Instagram, Dennis.tzng. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Collider Games. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Right now, we're under the Collider Factory feed, where you'll find our weekly podcast. And, maybe we'll throw this one up there as well. Who knows? Also, we have a whole bunch of other channels. We have Collider Sports just launched. We have our podcast channel. We have Quick, and we have our regular videos channel that covers movies and television. So you can all check it out all on YouTube and on our podcast network.